Hi, my name is NeraNelly. Today I will show you a few tips and tricks for when you are making movies in MovieStarPlanet and MovieStarPlanet 2. Should you not be interested in MovieStarPlanet and only in MovieStarPlanet 2, you can skip to this timestamp in the video. That is when I start talking about MovieStarPlanet 2. But let's get right into it. We will start with the original MovieStarPlanet. Tip 1. Essential animations. When a character is walking around on set, it seems strange that they walk sideways when going straight ahead. So use another type of walking such as classy walk, fashionable walk, or the stump when moving characters closer to the front of the set. Then we have other running animations. The normal running animation seems more like fleeing rather than running with a purpose, so I suggest buying action run or slow motion to make a character run differently. And as they are running towards the camera, use stay fit so they don't run sideways. You should also have a kissing animation. These animations are essential for any movie that requires physical affection between lovers or family members. I suggest just buying one if you don't have many star coins, as any of the animations get the job done. So Surprised is a good animation for when your characters are, well, surprised. But it also works for other emotions. Give them a sad expression and they look nauseated. Give them an angry expression and they look like they're stopping themselves from yelling. And then happy, neutral or sad expressions simply make them look surprised. I suggest having one or more sitting animations that aren't the regular one. It's a fine animation if you want your hands to look like they're glued to the table, but I prefer having some more lively versions of sitting down. Look how much more relaxed my character looks when using these ones. And then we have poses. I think having a few of these really creates a more realistic scene. Look how still and boring everything looks with just regular standing animation. And now, look how much more lively the scene is. Don't you agree that this one is better? I suggest not using poses where your characters are holding items, unless they will be standing with that item the entire time or the item is important for the scene. Otherwise, it will look like it appears out of nowhere and then vanishes again. So, unless you need your character to hold something important, I don't suggest using an item. Now we have the less important animations that are still nice to have. Beam Me Up is a super animation. When your character leaves the scene to the right, you can't move them completely out of the way, so you'll just see them standing there until you move on to the next scene. I suggest using Beam Me Up to remove them. The beam at the beginning is less distracting than having them stand in the corner for half a minute. Another cool animation to have is Friendly Chat. When using this one, it looks like your character is talking without having to use a speech bubble. This is a great trick for making it seem like background characters are having a conversation. It's also a good idea to have some eating or drinking animations for when your characters get hungry. Are you making a scene in a restaurant? It looks odd if your characters aren't eating or at least drinking. Some other cute little details you can add to your movies are hugging and holding hands. If you're making a romantic movie, for instance, you don't always want to jump straight to kissing, but perhaps some lighter version of physical intimacy. On the other side of the emotional spectrum, we have sadness. I suggest having at least one sad-looking animation to make your sad scenes more believable. And lastly, I really enjoy having other falling animations than slow fall. For slow fall is, well, pretty slow. So having just a normal fall might help your fall seem more sudden and important. Now that we got all the best animations out of the way, let's look at how we use them. First tip: use animations all the time. I've already mentioned this, but when your characters are just standing, use a pose with movement to make the scene look more realistic. Like this. Second tip: change animations. In real life, you rarely just stand around doing the same motion over and over for an extended period of time. So when something happens, like if your character is saying something, try changing the animation a little. Third tip, use animations as reactions. Sometimes people in real life are speechless and don't immediately know what to say. So when this seems natural to a character in your movie, try using an animation to show what they're thinking. I made an example here. And that is how you can use animations to better your movie. Now let's move on to how we make an even more dynamic movie. First tip, use as many movie stars as you can. Let's say you're making a scene in the city during the day and you only have 2 characters walking around. That doesn't seem very realistic, does it? Use at least 2 vacant movie star spots to add some background characters. Just make them stand still or walk around. Second tip, use items and furniture. When you're done with the scene, you can watch it back and see if you have any spots that look empty or boring. Say you're making a forest scene and there is nothing in the background. Add some bushes or some trees. That really helps with making your scene look cool. Third tip, use music. When your movie is done, you should watch it back and figure out which vibe each scene has. Then find some music that fits that vibe. MovieStarPlanet offers a variety of music that helps make each scene more emotional. Okay, I hope you're with me so far. So let's move on to some tips on how to write your dialogue. First tip, don't write too much. In each speech bubble you can write a long paragraph, but as each speech bubble only lasts for 2 frames, which is around 4 seconds, you shouldn't write too much, because then you won't be able to read everything before the bubble disappears. Instead, break down your long sentences into shorter ones to make sure your viewers will get every single detail. Second tip, use different bubbles. The different types of bubbles each have different effect. If you have ever read a manga or a comic, you know what I mean. The pointy bubble indicates that the speaker is yelling, the cloud-like bubble indicates thinking, and the square and round indicates regular speech. Third tip, make your dialogue natural. A mistake I often see people make with the dialogue is that they make it too proper or too thought through. In real life, people stutter, they use slang, they use empty words such as and ah and the like. When writing your dialogue, try writing it as if you had to say it without having it rehearsed. You will discover that your dialogue seems much more natural. Fourth tip, explain via dialogue. When you're making a new movie, your audience knows nothing about the story or the characters. So explain to the audience what is going on, but make it realistic so it doesn't feel fake. In this example, we have a girl who's in love with a boy, but he uses all his time on the phone. So instead of saying, he's always on his phone and I'm in love with him, say, he's on that phone again. If only he paid as much attention to me. Do you see the difference? I hope you do. Now, I want to show you some cool tricks I have learned when making movies in MovieStarPlanet. First trick, transforming your character from one to another. You need these 2 animations, Beam Me Up and Welcome to MovieStarPlanet 2. First, you find your characters. Then, you make your scene, and here's what you do when you want the magic to happen. Go to the first frame and take your second character and make them use Beam Me Up and place them somewhere in the scene. Then, go to the frame where you want the first character to disappear and take your first character and make them use Beam Me Up. Now in the next frame you place your second character on top of the first and make them do the animation Welcome to MovieStarPlanet 2. Go to the next frame again and make them do a pose of your choice. On the 4th frame you can move your first character out of the way. Lastly, you go to the very first frame and place your second character somewhere they can't be seen. Let's watch what happens now. Isn't that cool? Second trick, make a doppelganger. I have an extra account named The Other One and she looks like me. Why is this a good trick? Let me show you. Imagine you're making a movie and the first scene is of your main character waking up. You want them to be in their pajamas, right? Now, a couple of scenes later, they have arrived at their school. Now, it wouldn't be cool if they were still in their pajamas, right? So, simply use your extra account as the main character in their pajamas and use your regular account as the main character in their regular clothes. I've also once made a movie about vampires where the main character had a flashback to when she wasn't a vampire. To do that, I simply used my regular account as the vampire and then the extra account as the human version of that character in the flashback. Pretty cool, right? Trick 3. Make it a series, not a standalone film. Movies in MovieStarPlanet can only be 10 scenes long. This puts a limit on the length of your movie, and if you're like me and loves world building, it might be a better idea to split your movie into a series of films. This also allows you to use many different movie stars. I hope you enjoyed these tips and tricks in MovieStarPlanet, because now we will move on to tips and tricks in MovieStarPlanet 2. Let's again start with the essential animations. Now, the basic emotes and moods in MovieStarPlanet 2 are much more dynamic and smooth than the animations in MovieStarPlanet are, so I don't have many animations that you absolutely need here, but still, I would suggest having a few of these. You need 3 neutral poses. You need shocked, cry, denial, at least 1 sitting emote, yes, 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 and a kiss. When it comes to moods, you already have a great variety, but I would suggest having at least sporty, and then hip-hop runway or relaxed. So not so many. Now, let's dive into what tips I have for movie making in MovieStarPlanet 2. First tip, stack moods and emotes. To make your character's feelings apparent, first find the mood that makes your character's facial expression work with what they're feeling. Then, find the emote that makes your character move. You can mix and combine however you please. Second tip, dimensions. Shrink them, expand them, turn, twist and make them dizzy. MovieStarPlanet 2 did what MovieStarPlanet couldn't. You can place your characters everywhere. But, what I've seen many not fully grasping is how to work with dimensions. Here's a rule of thumb. Your character's eyes should always be on the same line. Do you see how this looks odd? That's because the background character's eyes are much higher than the ones in the front. This is so much better, don't you think the same? Third tip, don't use all characters. By this I mean that you should not have all 5 characters in one scene if they are all going to be talking. Why? Because it is extremely confusing to read the dialogue whilst looking for who is talking. Instead, do this. Have all your characters in one frame to show that they're together. Then, take the character that is going to be talking and move them to the front. Move everyone else out of the frame or completely remove them from the frame. Then, look at the first frame. Where is the talking character? What is the background like close to them? Try to recreate that with furniture and shapes. Add their dialogue and move on to the next frame. Do the exact same thing with the next speaking character. Now, when you play the movie back, there's no doubt about who is talking. It's a time-consuming way of doing it, but trust me, the result is so much better. That was some scene-related tips. Let's move on to dialogue-related tips. First tip. Shorten your lines. MovieStarPlanet 2 finally offers a way to control the length of your frames, which is perfect. But still, try not to make a 9-second long frames full of text. This way of doing it can be too heavy, so instead try making your frames and lines shorter. For example, if you want a character to explain something very complex, I don't make it a long-winded frame with all the information. I would much rather like to make 3 shorter frames with the sentences divided between them. Second tip. Know when to break your sentences. If you do end up having to have a lot of text in one frame, make sure you end the text box with a full stop or comma. Don't end it like this. See the issue? When reading this, the pose doesn't seem natural, so instead, do this. Much better, isn't it? Third tip, make pauses between lines. If it feels natural for a character to stop and think for a moment, let them. Do this by changing the animation and making a dialogue box with ... in them, and it will show that a character is thinking. These are the dialogue tips I have. If you need more, watch the first part about dialogue tips in MovieStarPlanet, as a few of those tricks also help in MovieStarPlanet 2. Let's move on to a few tricks for movie making in MovieStarPlanet 2. First trick, make a thumbnail. Most people already do this, but if you don't, it can really help you make your movie stand out. On your thumbnail, you should have the title of your movie or series, and especially if the title is long, add which episode number you just made. That way, when a title is too long above your thumbnail, people can still keep track of which part they have made it to. Your thumbnail could include a drawing made of shapes, a banner with the title, or the main characters of the movie. If you want to, you can set this frame to 0.1 second so that when you watch the movie you won't notice it there. Second trick, make your own backgrounds. I already covered this earlier about making close-ups, but you can also do this as a way of adding furniture or items that is yet to be introduced in MovieStarPlanet 2. Here, for example, I have made a bookshelf. It was necessary for the scene. Try it out! Third trick, more actors. Use more actors than you can. The limit of 5 movie stars in one movie is a bit limiting. Especially if you, like me, enjoy having many of your friends in your movies. Do this by having different actors in different parts of a series. One of my best friends, Miss Sassy17, made a Christmas calendar where she had a few characters that were in every episode, but for the remainder of the vacant slots, she had a new movie star for every episode. That way, the village everything took place in seemed much more full and lively. Fourth trick. This is something I will say you must do if you want to make sure you complete your stories. So it counts for both MovieStarPlanet and MovieStarPlanet 2. The trick is quite simply to write your story before you make a movie. It's so simple that I don't get why people don't do it. Before, I struggled with finishing my stories because I, as soon as I had an idea, began making the movie. I didn't know where the story was going, how I wanted the characters to turn out, or how long I wanted the story to be. I didn't even have an idea of an ending yet. Miss Sassy17 showed me that she wrote everything down before she as much as began casting the characters, so she had a clear vision of what was supposed to happen. Absolutely brilliant idea. After I began doing that, it has been much easier finishing projects. And not only movies in the games, also YouTube films. So write down where you want the story to go. You don't have to write the dialogue and everything, just a little overview of what is going to happen in each episode. And remember the ending, then you know how to twist your story and where it's supposed to be ending up. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Wow, that sure was a lot. Thank you for listening to me ramble for this long. I hope you were taught a thing or two. I don't have anything else for you today, but if you have any tips or tricks you would like to share, write them in the comment section below. If you would like, I could even share them in a second part of tips and tricks. Remember to like and subscribe if you would please. I hope to see you again. And so, without further ado, I will end the video. Thank you for watching. I love you all.